Hey everybody, how's it going? After rinsing myself on the bike today seems like the perfect time to talk about motivation, how to maintain your motivation, where to find your motivation, and understand exactly what motivation really means. Gonna cruise along. I've done some intervals today. I actually went home and had some time off afterwards because I was in a world of pain. It was horrible. 6 times 60 seconds at 800 watts. I managed 4. And number 5 and 6 were not so good. I'm gonna go and find a nice, freshly tarmac stretch of road and sit in a ditch for a little while. It's the sort of thing I like doing after efforts. We'll dive into exactly what the definition of motivation is, because I think there's one standard definition, but we all look at it and think of it as a different thing, potentially. Anyway, let's go and have a talk. So last week I did 6 of them, but they were only 30 seconds at the same power. I don't know why I thought I could do 6 of them this week at twice the duration. You'd never go out and ride at your threshold for twice the duration, just the second week that you did the effort. So yeah, all of us have unrealistic expectations at times. Mine came out today. Holding the camera on a gimbal, which means that my shaky hands are no longer an issue. Silky smooth tarmac. Look at that. I like coming up here because it's a really nice view. It's a very, very quiet little lane. No one ever really comes along here, which means you can just talk to a camera without having to be interrupted and have a horse, a car, a person on a bike. It just makes life a little bit easier. Don't feel self-conscious speaking to yourself either. Although I think those days are firmly behind me. Look at this. So I was having to think about motivation earlier in the week because I normally feel quite motivated. I think it's a really special feeling to have, but I realise that everyone's motivations are different, and what that means to them is considerably different. If you look at the definition of motivation, it's one's desires, one's need, one's drive that lives within. And I think for a lot of us, it feels like an emotion, wants or drives within the individuals. It's the process of stimulating people to actions to accomplish the goals in the work goal context. The psychological factors stimulating the people's behavior can be desire for money or success or betterment or anything else that you can come up with, basically, can be a motivation to do something. But how do you motivate yourself when you're tired and when you don't feel motivated? And I think that's a really important thing, because you need to have that thing, that reason, that desire, that want, that need, living there somewhere in the background that entire time. And this is something that I think athletes have a huge amount of. Anyone that's lived a career as a professional athlete has probably more want, desire, need than any other living human being on earth, because, okay, that's an exaggeration. There will be other people there that fit into that category. But on the whole, an athlete is someone they're doing something willingly that's incredibly difficult, and they're going to suffer for it. Like that. Not so quiet. They're doing something willingly, they're going to suffer for it. And it's not a comfortable pain, but there's a motivation behind doing it. There's success normally for an athlete, or betterment for an athlete, someone that's perhaps achieved a lot already and they want to continue to improve. Maybe it's an athlete that just does it for the sheer pleasure of it, and that's enough motivation. And then you have athletes that do it because they enjoy the process. But all of those things sometimes, I feel, have a bit of a shortcoming, because when you're having to train really, really hard or do something at work that's really, really difficult, really, really challenging, just a little bit of motivation from process or consistency isn't perhaps enough. You need a deeper drive that's living within you. So let's start with goals. Setting goals is the biggest and best way to motivate yourself. That's why people that do sports as hobbies often do events and competitions, or in the world of cycling, sportives. You need a target, you need something to build towards. And that's one of the most special things. As an athlete, you can wake up every single day with this really defined target. You have a race day, it starts at a certain time on a certain date. You know exactly what the course is going to be, you know how you're going to get there, and you know what you expect from that event. Well, in normal life, there are a lot more variables that come into play, and that makes it a little bit more challenging, I think. But it doesn't mean you can't take some of what you learn from the world of sport and use that in real life as well. Easier to sit down now. My legs are still quivering from earlier. finding your motivation is ultimately the important thing. You need to find that desire, that want, that need. You really need to work out what it is that you want to achieve with whatever it is you're doing. So whether that's work, sport, cycling, running, fitness of any kind, understanding what it is that you're trying to achieve is the first step to motivating yourself. And I think that often gets forgotten. Like, I really struggle with motivation if I don't have an event planned. I don't need to train like I used to train. I don't enjoy being tired, but I need to have something to work towards, something to build towards, which is why I was doing the efforts earlier, because I want to improve a power number on a screen. It doesn't really mean a huge amount. I'm not ever going to use it in a race winning situation like my career depended on, but it's a huge motivator to me that I could do something that I perhaps couldn't do when I was a bike rider because I'm now fresher. So choosing new goals is also really important. First, highlight the goal. Find the reason that you want to motivate yourself. What is the reason for wanting to be motivated? And then find a goal to build towards, a target, something that you can quantifiably tick off. Because if you can't say whether you achieve something or not, how can you motivate yourself to achieve that? So on that note, for example, I decided to give up alcohol for the full 12 months of 2022, and nearly 8 months in completely from New Year's Eve to now. It's fine. It's a quantifiable goal. It's something that I know that I can achieve, something I decided I would be able to achieve before I set out and embarked on it. And that's also important. You have to choose realistic goals. There's no point choosing something which is so far removed from what you can normally do, something that's normally within your so far out of your normal capabilities that it's unrealistic, because that's just demoralizing. You need to choose goals that motivate you, but they also provide you with confidence. I think that's really important in life as well, because you'll feel better about yourself. What's the point in doing something that's going to demoralize you? Like, if I decided that I wanted to do something like the Chapter Tour next year and set the fastest time, it's the most unrealistic goal ever. It's brutally hilly, absolutely not my sort of thing, mountainous when I say hilly. So that's not going to happen. But I can do a 60-second effort on my local roads. That's much more realistic. So choosing something which is really within your means, within your capabilities, but it's still a challenge, it's still a stretch. That's really important as well. Okay, some people are motivated by processes and just ticking boxes, but I don't always like that, because I think if I went out on a training ride and I was trying to set personal best records, just going through the process of doing that would annoy me and it wouldn't be enough. I need to have a little bit more underlying motivation than that. It needs to be something burning away inside of me, something that really wakes me up in the morning and I'm like, cool, right, I'm getting out of bed now, waking up at 6, going out at 6:30, whatever it is, arbitrary times a day, something that really drives you and you can't fight against it. It's so overwhelmingly strong. But to get to that point, you need to spend a long time thinking about your goals as well. I like to listen to music. I find it a huge motivator. Other people like the silence. Other people like imagery, picturing themselves achieving their goals. That worked really well when I was racing. So I'd listen to a pre-race playlist before every single race, and it was not going to share the music with you. It's not going to endear me to anyone. It was fine. It was just really cheesy. And I would listen to that. I would close my eyes. I'd lie in the dark because I believed it would save me energy. I'd talk to my teammates and the people around me when I needed to. But when you have those opportunities to sit there quietly, I think it's really important to take those opportunities, to think about what it is you're trying to achieve, focus on those goals, use that imagery, use that playlist, but don't overuse them. If you use them every day, that doesn't work either. If you're using them to go and do a 2-hour endurance training ride, that's a complete waste of that system. You have to practice it, but practice it before the really hard training rides, or before if it's at work and you're trying to do something that's difficult, listening to music before you do it, listening, whatever it is that works for you, that creates that flow of energy before it happens, I think it's the way to approach things. And obviously other people will have different ideas about this, but it's one of life's biggest challenges, isn't it? Being motivated. It means you care. It means that you have something to live for, something to wake up for. And I think it's special to feel that motivation. I think we should all strive to feel motivated at different times in life. You can't feel motivated to do everything. I had to hang up the laundry last night. I was absolutely not motivated to do that. But if I hadn't, I couldn't have worn the speed suit. So there's motivation in everything we do, and we just have to work out what it is. And when you work out what it is, it makes it so much easier to do the things that we otherwise might not enjoy doing. But let's just focus on motivation for training, because ultimately that's the real thing that I know, I understand, have a lot of passion for, and still really do these days. creating a structured week. It doesn't have to be a strict training program. It doesn't have to be anything more than I'm going to ride for 2 hours on this day. But holding yourself to account on something that you pre-planned is ultimately the best way to motivate yourself to actually achieving it. If I just wake up every single day and think, oh, I fancy riding my bike today, or maybe I go out at 10, or Saturday morning, maybe I'll go out at 10, maybe I'll go out at 1. It never happens. But having a pre-arranged time, maybe with someone else, if you're lucky enough to ride with other people more often, having a pre-arranged or predetermined ride length, ride duration, type of intervals in the ride maybe, because riding the same sort of rides all the time isn't going to improve your fitness. Things like that can make a huge difference to how easy it is, not just to motivate yourself, but to hold yourself to that motivation, to hold yourself to achieving what it is that you were setting out to achieve in the first place. Even if you just write it down. A training plan doesn't need to be that defined. It just needs to have something easy, something hard, something with rest, and it just needs to be consistent. And that way you will improve your fitness, you'll improve your motivation, because at the start of the week you knew exactly what you were going to do. You can check it off as you go along, which improves your confidence, because you're like, oh good, no, I'm doing this. And it works for me as well. I write my own little training programs when I want to get fitter, and I really enjoy doing that. And if you are looking for training programs at work, I create them for free, and there's 27 weeks worth of different training programs and intervals that you can find on the LCCC site, and it's well worth going over there because I enjoyed making them and I think they're good fun to do. It's the sort of training that I would do myself. Why not give it a go? That is one of the easiest ways to improve your own motivation, by following a training plan like that. And then choosing an event. I know we can't all go to events all the time, so maybe it doesn't have to be a real event. Maybe it can just be something that you want to do. There's something called the West Kerney Way in Cornwall. 250 something kilometres, predominantly off-road. I quite fancy doing that. I don't know when I'm going to get the chance to do it, possibly when Alex decides that I need to take up bike packing, but he's working on that at the moment. So things like that, creating your own routes, setting your own targets, your own personal best power numbers, or maybe you have a route that you like to do. Maybe you like to do it as fast as possible. I have one here. I created myself a little lap years ago and I still like to chase how fast I can go around it. Just little things like this, they make a huge difference to your motivation with training. They hold you to account for what you're doing, and when you achieve it, it's an amazing feeling. To summarise, we all will struggle with motivation from time to time, and it's just about assessing what it is you're trying to achieve and then working out a plan on how you're going to achieve it, and then maybe creating some extra supporting, I don't know how to word it, framework. That's a horrible phrase, isn't it? Just put some things into place which mean that you have that support. So whether that is a training plan, whether it is an event, something on the horizon, something to be a little bit excited about, because you should be a little bit excited about what's motivating you to do the things you're doing. I think it's fair. Life can be mundane and dull enough. So why not be excited about something that you want to motivate you? I am going to nurse myself home now. I recently had a thought about loads of different types of videos which are considerably different to the types of videos you've seen, well, probably since I no longer was returning to racing. The sort of thing that I used to do more often on this channel, just talk to a camera, share my experiences and my learnings from those experiences, hopefully the advice that goes with this, and with a little bit of luck you will find it beneficial and I will enjoy doing it. Because if you look at the earlier videos from that first year where I just strapped the camera to my bike and go out and ride, they weren't great videos, but there was a lot of good advice. And I think ultimately that's probably the sort of thing that I should do more, just anecdotal advice based on my own experiences. Because I enjoy doing that, I like talking. That's why the videos are so long and I talk so fast. Right, I'm going home. Let me know in the comments what you think about motivation, what it means to you. How do you motivate yourself? Because I'd love to know about other people's ideas, how other people do things. I'm not the only voice on the planet, luckily. There's some very, very good voices and a lot of them are much better than mine. So let me know. I'll see you next week. My arms, my shoulders and everything are still hurting from earlier. It's just one of the most disgusting types of effort to do.